I want to welcome everybody back to the Lockdown Sessions with Wrestling Travel. Today, we are very happy to be sitting down with the Thumper, Frankie DeFalco. Frankie, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How you doing out there, brother?
We're doing really well, as well as we can with all this. Looks like we're starting to kind of maybe creep out of our quarantine here slowly but surely here in Wisconsin.
Yep.
We wanted to have you on. I wanted to get a chance to kind of talk to
That's not good.
talk to
too much
people
glare
about
with the glasses on. Okay.
You know what? This whole quarantine thing, I haven't been able to put my contacts in, so I'm stuck with my spectacles as well. I can take them off now because, hey, everything's a blur. But we're from the United Kingdom. Our company takes wrestling fans from all over the world to different events. The last one we were able to go to was Wrestle Kingdom in Tokyo. Unfortunately, WrestleMania got canceled. So I want to get a chance, our fans from the United Kingdom and around the world get a chance to know Frankie DeFalco. Frankie, when did you break into the business?
1979.
All right.
I was a senior in high school, and I've always been a fan of professional wrestling. Started watching it at about the age of 6, maybe 5. And in Wisconsin and the Midwest was all AWA territory, back when territories were, gospel. But watching Crusher, Bruiser, Baron Von Raschke, the Ganyas, all those guys, Wahoo McDaniel, Superstar Billy Graham. But the one guy that always caught my eye was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. And, when everyone's younger, they're like, yeah, I want to become a doctor, policeman, fireman, blah, 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 lawyer. I wanted to become a professional wrestler. And that's what I did. And I had a lot of kids on the playground that I demonstrated a lot of my stuff on. I'm sorry. I apologize to all of them now. I apologize to them back then. And, I was doing pile drivers on concrete and figure fours and everything. I didn't know any better, but it was what it was. Then we, every month we always went to the Milwaukee Auditorium to watch AWA, and that was it. My uncle was an alderman in Milwaukee, and he always had choice of tickets, and I asked for wrestling. So my brother, my dad, and my grandfather always went to the Milwaukee Auditorium every month, and I was watching them from the parquet section, which were really great seats right in the center, elevated up. And then as time gone on, I became a security guard for a company called Midwest Security, and it just happened that AWA Wrestling was part of the job. So I'm sitting ringside next to the ring announcer, which was Tom Stone's father. And then sitting next to him, he's ringing the bell, and I'm holding all the title belts.
Wow.
And it was really good. And then as time goes on, I'm talking to these guys and everything else. And I started getting a really good rapport with Nick Bockwinkel, Mad Dog Vachon, and a lot of those guys, and talking to them at that point. And then a gentleman by the name of Al Patterson came along, who's an African-American legend. And what's funny is that I used to be a gym instructor at the Milwaukee Boys and Girls Club now. And they always say, Frankie, there's a guy who keeps putting wrestling holds on us. I'm like, what the hell? Every time I would go there, he's already gone. And just one day when he was there, he had a hold on the guy. And I came up behind him and put a chicken wing on him. And then he said those magical words, how would you like to become a professional wrestler? And I'm like, okay. And I trained at the Martin Luther King Center in a very, very stiff boxing ring. And because I had watched wrestling back when I was younger and I saw it firsthand, I adapted to it very well. And I had my first match like 2 months later at the Crystal Palace on 19th and National in Milwaukee against a guy named Ed Wildcat Hibble. And I lost, is what it is. But hey, but do I have regrets? Nope. I have no regrets about being in the business. I have other regrets about people that I've trained in the business and people that I let work for my company. But other than that, I've met a lot of friends along the way. Kurt Hennig, Scott Hall. Man, I worked against Andre the Giant, Haku, Ted DiBiase. He had a girlfriend in Milwaukee, and and he was in the Midwest or whatever. He made sure that I was around for their dates and crap like that. Hercules Hernandez lived in Menominee Falls, so him and I worked out quite a bit back in the day. I met a lot of people along the way, and like I said, I have no regrets about that part.
No, it's fantastic. I was going to ask you that my follow-up, but you covered it beautifully, was, how did you break in? Because back in 1979, heck, back even 20, 25 years ago, it wasn't like it is today where people can jump on the internet and just go, hey, I'm going to jump in.
Right.
I don't know if they, the amount of people that I know are quote unquote wrestlers, but they've trained on a trampoline in Mrs. Johnson's backyard is kind of
that's how dysfunction came around. His dad and I were very tight. We used to play softball against each other back on the playground days. Mm-hmm. And he came to me one day and asked me if I could train his son, Kurt, because he was sick and tired of him wrestling in the backyard. And everybody knows him now as Dysfunction. I love the kid. He's like my adopted sons, and he has his own little company right now called ICW. They do a lot of hardcore stuff, and I help him out as much as possible. And he's been one of my originals in Brew City Wrestling since the inception. He's one of the originals.
One of the originals. So I'm going to jump around back and forth because obviously Absolutely. I'm not a professional interviewer. How long has Brew City Wrestling been in existence?
January 2004. So we're coming up on 17 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. The whole intention was for me to do shows on Fridays so guys could work for me and then maybe double shot with somebody else on a Saturday. And I was running my shows every 2 weeks at this venue, the AMF Lanes in Waukesha, Wisconsin. And the storylines were basically dying down after like 2 months. And I'm like, this ain't working right. So I started spreading them out to a month, 4 to 6 weeks. And ever since then, I've been changing, it's been that way. And now as time goes on, I'm adding more fairs and festivals. Unfortunately now, I've lost a lot of fairs and festivals as well because of the pandemic. But I just found out today that Wisconsin State Fair canceled, but they already told me a month ago, so I already knew about that.
Okay.
But June 20th, Brew City Wrestling reloads again, and we'll be starting up again at the Elks Lodge in Waukesha, Wisconsin, 2301 Springdale Road. Yeah, Springdale Road. And it's going to be a great thing. Ringside's already sold out. I'm not looking for a lot of people like I normally do. I can usually get 80 people ringside, but I'm doing only 65 this time around.
Okay.
And every time someone orders a ticket, I tell them it's going to be at the front door. I'm going to have masks there, hand sanitizers, and I'm also going to have a head thermometer, and I'm checking everybody who comes in. And then I always ask the people, when they order their tickets, have you been around anybody within the last few weeks who's been sick, who's had, been around anyone who's had the pandemic as well? But my lawyer is going to drop some paperwork to have them sign a form when they come in. So to make sure, we'll be asking them again. And this way it covers my ass that if something does happen, hey, they already asked as they're coming in that have they been, around anything. And if something does happen, I could maybe go after these people too for infecting the show as well.
No, that was my follow-up. I was going to ask what precautions you're taking. And yeah, I'm really happy to see wrestling starting to come back here in Wisconsin, but nobody wants to be that show that has a disastrous outcome. Oh. So that's good. I mean, it may sound extreme, but you have to be. You have
Right.
to. So
And
you're
I'm also asking them too, do you want to sit next to each other or spread apart? And everybody wants to sit next to each other. So it's a good thing, it's a bad thing. And then we're going to ask them again too, for like second row and beyond, the seats will be separated, but if they want to move them together, that's their choice as well too. We will tell the people when they come in and when the show starts. So I'm just covering all the bases just to protect myself, the Elks Lodge, and of course the people that come in.
right. That's what you got to do. That's fantastic. If I back up, when you started wrestling. I used to very lucky. I'm a huge AWA guy, just like you.
Right.
Love the AWA. So you did wrestle for the AWA, but around about the same time, you did some spots with the WWF, correct?
I did. I started with the AWA. Tom Stone was booking the talent for them at that time. I believe it was like 1980 or 81. We started doing AWA. And then all of a sudden, WrestleMania came about, WrestleMania 3, I believe. And that's when we started doing TV for them as well. So, and that's when the big jump happened. Kurt Hennig, a lot of those guys went to WWF with the jump. Jim Brunzell, and they already knew who we were. So when we got there, and at the time the agents were Chief Jay Strongbow, Tony Gurria, Pat Patterson, the guys would, hey, Frankie DeFalco's here. Can we work with him? So I was already working matches with like Don Morocco, Marty Jannetty, Shawn Michaels, Kurt, and those guys that already worked TV and stuff with them in the AWA. So with them knowing us and how we work, it was a no-brainer that they worked us for TV as well for WWF.
So when would your last match with the AWA be?
Oh my God!
I mean, were you able to do WWF and AWA at the same time during?
Yeah, they needed guys. They know who we were, so we were enhancement. We were helping them out. In fact, there was one time when we were in the locker room, Hercules Hernandez, myself and a couple other guys, that, if it wasn't for us, they would have to just work each other, and the storylines and everything really wouldn't be as well as they were, like they are today, because we're helping them put themselves over and helping them with their storylines and the angles. So that was a plus for them. So, yeah, Vern didn't have any problems with it. Greg Gagne didn't have any problems with it. So, I mean, we were just doing the thing. The one thing that really got us funny is that after we did TV one time after WrestleMania 3, Jesse Ventura tells us, he goes, when you see Vern Gagne, tell him 93,000 plus. I'm like, yeah, okay there, Jesse. We're going to tell him that.
Yeah.
No, not going to do that. Not going to burn the bridge.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Because I often wondered, you would turn on TV, and you could see Frankie DeFalco wrestle twice in a day, because you could see him on WWF, you could see him on AWA. We were talking off camera before we started. Mutual friend Van Horn,
my buddy Van.
Buddy Van. He tells me. I mean, he was talking about how cool it was. Probably not by everybody, but treated very well. He said Randy Savage always, after he worked with him and helped him out, that Randy Savage always remembered his name and remembered to say hi and everything, and how cool that was for you guys helping him out. Did you similar experiences?
I knew Randy from when he had his company called IWA or IAW down in Kentucky. Him and Bob Orton Jr. were running that company down there. So when I was affiliated with Al Patterson's company, Al had brought them all in. So I had worked Randy, and I also worked Bob Orton as well. So when we did TV again for WWF, hey, Frankie, what are you doing here? Hey, I'm here probably to put you over. Who knows? But, it was fun that we all had that back history.
You talked about working Andre the Giant. Do you have a story at all that might stick out working with him?
It was a one-time deal. It was a tag match, myself and my partner. And at the time, I'm selling Zubas for the Road Warriors.
Okay.
And I got over with those guys as well. And I'm sitting there talking to Haku, and Andre's having his wine. and we're talking about the match. And my partner, whose name I won't mention, but comes in, pulls up a chair in front of us and says, okay, guys, this is what I'd like to do in our match. And me and Haku looked at each other like, and I didn't say a word. So all of a sudden, Strongbow walks in. He goes, hey, boss, who do you want to take it on? And Andre goes, him. And I'm like, boy, you got to keep your mouth shut in times like that. So during the match, I started with Haku, did a couple things, tags in Andre. Andre hip tosses me into the corner, and I tagged in my partner. That was the end of my part of the match. And Andre slams the kid, and as soon as he's up on all fours, Andre does an elbow on top of him, all 500 plus pounds of him, and basically broke his back. Yeah, and then he's chopping him a couple times, and he was a little snug in the corner with the ass thing in the corner. Tags the Haku. Haku slams him a bunch of times, and then Haku's finish was a super kick. And also, Haku had some long-ass toenails. So with the super kick, he went and kicked him and lacerated him under his eye and pinned him. Yeah, it was – back then, you don't say nothing unless they ask you, hey, what can you do? What would you like to do? You do not do what this guy did. Hey, this is what I'd like to do in our match. And, Andre took care of him big-ass time, literally.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. AWA, did you get a chance ever? And I like I said, I'm loosey goosey here. Did you ever get a chance to work or know Ricky Rice when he wrestled over there?
Of course. Yeah.
I've asked like Mick Karch and some of the guys. Nobody has any idea whatever happened to Ricky Rice. You in the same boat?
No, I haven't heard from him in ages. There's like only a couple guys up that way that I even talk to now, and I talk to Greg Gagne twice a month now to see how he's doing. I went to his father's funeral, and there's not many like I forgot even their names, Wayne Bloom and the other guy who couldn't cut a promo if his life depended on it, but I don't even know what's going on with any of those guys. Steve Olszanowski's, I know Olszanowski's still kicking it up there. Jim Brunzell is. Barron's still doing well up that way.
Brad Rangan?
But, what's that?
Is Brad Rangan still hanging out in Minnesota?
Brad's still up there as well, too, yeah. In fact, every time I talk to Greg, hey, Frankie, you got those guys doing 1,000 squats yet? I'm like, no, man. They're only doing 200 right now. Oh, Dad had us. They say Vern would always have us doing 1,000 right away. Yeah, times have changed, Greg.
Yeah, I catch a lot of people ask me who's my favorite wrestler of all time, and I'm like, you guys aren't going to know him, but it's been Greg Gagne. And people don't understand, and it's like, that's AWA is all I had.
Yeah, I had some good matches with Greg. We had some fun times, good times. The one match, was really good is every 2 or 3 weeks, they would fly us out to Las Vegas to do TV at the Showboat. Mm-hmm. And we were doing TV in Whitewater, and that's when Buddy Rose started with the company. And I was wearing a purple Playboy Bunny shirt. And he goes, hey, who are you? I said, Frankie DeFalco. Well, you can't be wearing that Playboy shirt on TV because I'm Playboy Buddy Rose. I'm like, yeah, so what, Paul? What do you want from me? What do you mean, Paul? And him and I, we hit it off right away. So then one time we're in TV, and I had a bad elbow at the time. And he goes, hey, can you do one-arm push-ups? I said, no, I got a bad elbow. Can't do them. Can you do two-arm? I said, yeah. Jumping jacks, yeah. So we're ready to start the match, and he does the jumping jacks. I'm like, okay, so I'm doing jumping jacks. And he went down, and he did one-arm push-ups. And I was towards the hard camera, and I called him an MFer. I said, I told you I couldn't do them. He starts laughing, so I went down, and I did 5 one-handed push-ups. And he goes, I thought you said you couldn't do them. I said, I told you I couldn't, but you forced me to. And we started our match, and I was a little snug with him during that match. I chopped him some good times on it because he pissed me off. I didn't want to do that, but he forced me to do it. So, and then he started bad-mouthing me afterwards that I showed him up in the match. No, I didn't. You know, but is what it is. Sherry Martel was another great woman over there.
Oh, yeah. Well, do you have any
Sherry was a mainstay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she was a lot of people will look at the AWA like that 1983, 82 when Hulk Hogan and Mean Gene and everybody made the jump. But
Yep.
we're talking 87, 88 when you got like the Kurt Hennings, the Sherry Martels. I mean,
Sure.
there's a lot of talent, still a lot of talent left over there after that initial WWF jump.
Yeah, yeah.
How long have you? How long have you? You've had the Brew City Wrestling, but how long have you done the training, the Thumpers Academy?
Thumper's Den Wrestling Academy since 2015.
Okay.
So yeah, we've been doing this for 5 years, and we got no problems. A lot of good talent have come out of there. Some have done TV and work for Ring of Honor already too. So, and they're all signed up with WWE with their online enhancement as well too. I have some contacts in there, so whenever they're around, and I mean it's not going to happen now, but I also have some friends with AEW. So if they ever need anything, I heard they are coming to Milwaukee in September. So if they need any guys, my guys will be willing, to do anything for them to help them out.
Right, and I've talked to a few of your guys, Mav Boone,
Yeah,
Doc Simmons.
Doc
told me he had to bother you for quite a while.
He did. He's got a boxing background, and Doc, he listens well. He's the greatest heavyweight of all time. He's the GOAT. He's only 5'3", 5'4", maybe $150, but he works his ass off at training all the time. Him, Maverick, Zach Hendricks,
yep.
Perch, who's one of the best referees around. They all bust their ass, 4 times a week at the training center, and they do great. They get a lot of work. Perch referees now for AAW down in Chicago. So Danny Daniels has them working for them as well too.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, Doc was telling me he may be only 100 and so pounds, but he's going to give you everything he's got.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pack it all in there. So,
yeah, he had a nice little feud with Hornswoggle for like 3 or 4 months in Brew City Wrestling. So that was good.
Yeah. When you guys get back going on June 20th, do you have any? You got your matches already? Do you know what's happening or who's main event?
I do. Yeah, absolutely.
Let us know. Yeah.
One storyline that's gonna reload, pardon the pun, is going to be Dysfunction, who is the Brew City Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion, teaming up with the Midwest Slayers, Stacy Shadows, against the Ace of Diamonds, Maverick Boone, and Ethan Matthews. They've been going at it for a good 6 months, and it's going to resume again June 20th. Hardcore Impact, which is Hardcore Craig and Paulie Tomaselli, are taking on, what are they called? Whiskey Bent and Hellbound, which is Max Holiday and Roadhouse James Vincent. I'm also going to have 4 ladies competing for the vacant Brew City Wrestling Women's Championship, and that's going to be Casey Carlisle out of Virginia, Rocky Radley out of Florida, Sky Blue out of Illinois, and that is one more.
Yeah, well, we put you on the spot where Hardcore Craig is still going, huh?
What's that?
Hardcore Craig is still giving her, huh?
Yes. Craig, I've known Craig, helped him break into the business. So, yeah, he's come a long way.
Yeah, well, you said.
Oh, I'm sorry. And the 4th woman is Paloma Star.
There we go. Okay, we don't want to.
Paloma Star. That's the other one. Yeah.
We don't want to offend anybody by leaving them out.
No.
I usually ask some of the guys here, like, what are the ones that are still active, like their bucket list, and I go, I know that's a terrible question to ask because for 5 guys you name, you leave out 25.
Exactly.
You're just not thinking. then I'm a big advocate. Wrestling Travel, we work with a lot of big names, but I'm a big advocate for independent wrestling. I think Wisconsin, Minnesota here, Wisconsin, we're at a really good hotbed of independent wrestling. For you, Frankie, who's wrestled for so long and has done stuff with, WWF, WWE, AWA, can you tell the average fan, because I think there's nothing better than independent wrestling. I love going to WWE, AEW. If I want to sit in the stands with thousands of other people, it's great and I love it. But there's something about going to the Elks Lodge, to the high school, to the Armory, and watching independent wrestling.
Right.
Can you describe that for somebody who's maybe on the edge and going, man, and I know I'm long-winded here, but it's because a lot of people I try to go, hey, go down and check out indie wrestling. And they might say, hey, I want to check out WWE, but there are some amateur wrestling show going down at the high school. And I'm like, it's not amateur.
No.
That's where you want to be. Can you describe that for the fan on the edge?
Yeah, like those shows like WWE, AEW, even AAW and AEW, they always have those barricades around the ring. I don't do that. The fans can, they get involved. And going to an indie show where you can pay $15, $20 to sit ringside, you are definitely up close and personal, where you're more involved in the indie show, where in the bigger shows, you basically got to sit there and you're at least 10 feet away from the ring. My seat's front row, you're definitely at least 6 feet, 5 feet away from the ringside. So you're catching all the good sweat. The Elks Lodge, God bless them. They let my guys fight up on the bar, throughout the building, in the kitchen. It doesn't matter. They love it. Where at my previous building, heck, if I did any of that, I was kicked out. But I love the Elks. They let us get away with a lot. And I appreciate them for everything they do for me and my company. So, but yeah, it's a big difference. I mean, everybody is different on how they run their shows. But I know for the shows here, myself and ICW, for Dysfunction, there's no ring barricades. People are up there right up to the ring, smelling all the sweat and everything else. So that's a good thing.
And I always say the cool thing is if I want to boo or cheer somebody like Dysfunction, he's going to hear it. He's going to react.
Absolutely.
You're part of the show. Yeah.
With my company at the Brew City Wrestling, we get 200, 300 people every month. And the wrestlers hear all that. Where you go to a WWE show, you got 10,000 people, and they're lucky even to hear, everyone's cheering and booing. They hear that. But they cannot hear those one or two people out there, who are saying those words. Where at my shows, you can't hear that.
I've been waiting for this opportunity for pro wrestling to come back. In Wisconsin, we seem to be the next one on the list to let it go. I said from the get-go that the wrestlers, the active wrestlers, are going to be given 120% because they've been on the sidelines.
Chomping at the bit.
And the fans, too. I mean, I think these fans in these first few shows, even though we got to limit the number of fans, right. I think the energy is going to be just as strong as if you had that packed house because it's been so long. I think people are going to come out of this pandemic wanting to go to pro wrestling. And somebody's running June 5th. I just talked to Zach Hendricks before this.
Yeah, ICW.
ICW is running June 5th. Yep, Dysfunction.
Yeah. He's renting my ring for that show because his building is still closed down. That's Milwaukee. But the venue he's running in is West Dallas, and they don't have any restrictions, I guess, right now. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll slowly find out. And I think it's awesome, the precautions that you named.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome you guys are doing that. Like I said, I worried being in the business and being a fan of the business that one promoter is going to mess it up for everybody, something stupid. But it sounds like you're taking all the right precautions. Brew City Wrestling, I want to get a chance. We're out of the United Kingdom, the main company, even though both of you you and I are in the great state of Wisconsin right now.
Right.
We take fans all around to different places. Where are some of your favorite cities? If you had to, let's go outside of the state of Wisconsin. Where have your wrestling travels, to pardon the pun, taken you? Some of the favorite cities you've been able to wrestle in.
I've been in all the major cities throughout the country throughout my career. So, but I do love Las Vegas, wrestling there. Dallas is nice. I never had the opportunity to wrestle in the at Von Erich's building.
Oh.
But what's that?
I said, oh, that just.
Yeah. I forgot it's torn down already too. So, but yeah, I've just about all of them. Minneapolis was nice. St. Paul Civic Center. Then doing TV in the studios up in Minneapolis as well too. Rochester, Minnesota. At the Rochester Civic Center, we were up there as well too. So, boy, I love them all. They all treated me great, so I'm not going to judge one from the other. So it wouldn't be fair.
Right. We just had to get the travel question in there, otherwise,
absolutely,
it's in my contract. What one other guy I was curious about? I saw him probably 2000, 2001. I believe he might live in Kenosha, but is Tony Leone still around?
As far as I know, he is.
Okay.
As far as I know, he is still there, but I haven't seen or heard Tony, heard from him in probably a good 15, maybe 20 years.
Okay, yeah, and that's right where I'm at too. That was the last time I had seen him, and I thought, man, I almost hate to ask, but I'm like, I gotta kind of ask. So where can fans, as I started to say, this will go all around the world, hopefully, to many fans. But Brew City Wrestling.
Hello, world. How are ya? Hope everyone's doing well and great and staying safe.
That's right. How can we keep up if I'm a fan from the United Kingdom? I'm not going to be able to make it to Wisconsin, but the Brew City, what socials can I find Brew City and Frankie DeFalco on?
You can find us on our main website is www.brewcitywrestling1.com. That has all our show information on there. Social media, Facebook, Frankie DeFalco, Brew City Wrestling, Brew City Wrestling 1. Instagram is Brew City Wrestling, and you can also follow me on Twitter at BCW1.
BCW1 on Twitter. And matches on YouTube?
Yes, we do have some. It's Brew City Wrestling.
Outstanding. So,
yes.
And then my last question, I'm going to ask it on camera because then I'm going to hold you to this question.
Oh, God.
And I know I was promised I wasn't going to get controversial. Hope this isn't controversial. My favorite wrestler of all time is Greg Gagne.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get a hold of Greg Gagne. I probably will never be able to get a hold of Greg Gagne, but if you please let him know that you had a fun experience with wrestling travel, and maybe someday I could get him on the show. I'm not going to make you ask for me, but just if it happens to come up in conversation.
Now, if you would have asked me this when we first started, I could have had him on the phone and he could have been joining us with this. But after we hang up, I'll give him a call and I'll give him all your information and see if he doesn't mind if I give you his number.
That would be that. This is the best interview I've ever had. Like I'm not even playing it up. Fantastic. So I appreciate it. So we want to say thank you, Wrestling Travel, for having you. We could probably do another one of these some days because I really, I know the fans are really, and myself too, hear some more stories from Frankie DeFalco. A lot of people may not understand outside of the state, but you're a name. I do have one. When I saw you wrestle as a younger child, I'm not that much younger than you, but you were obviously in the business, and I was not at the time. I saw you wrestle in Rhinelander for the North American Wrestling Federation, and I do remember buying a program there, and I wish I had it. I wish I had it because I had seen Frankie DeFalco on TV, and it was always Frankie DeFalco. Frank DeFalco. Inside they had 3, they weren't 8x10s, but they were on paper, but things you could get autographed. Yeah. And the one that I got as probably a 12-year-old kid, and it was The Sex Machine, Frankie DeFalco. And he had the T-shirt with the printed tux, and I always remember that.
All right.
Like, what the hell?
Quick story about that.
All right.
Mike Richards, Mike Moran, and we were called the Sex Express from several females that we associated with. And they called us the Sex Machine. Or they called me the Sex Machine. Together, we were the Sex Express. And, it was, oh, boy, those are some good times back then. So if Mike Richards ever sees this promo, he'll know what I'm talking about.
I'll have to send you. I've got a couple of the newspaper clippings that I've got your name and stuff in it. And I think I sent you a couple of years ago. One of the old magazines saw your picture in, but I'll have to send you that stuff. So yeah, I don't have that 8x10 anymore, but I do remember it was very different.
Yeah,
I think Jake Milliman was a Russian for that show.
Yeah, him and Tom Stone, they represented Russia.
Yeah. Oh man, you know what? I wish we had these back then.
Right?
To just get some. You guys wrestled under the big top up here in Rhinelander, and it was my first pro wrestling show live. And I, as a 12-year-old kid, just our eyes were that big. So man, I thank you very much. So thank you so much, problem. Frankie. I kind of went a little fanboy there at the end, but hey, it's all real.
Good.
So, all right,
thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, buddy.